Some songs get banned for being obscene. Some get banned for being political. But this one got banned for being a little too brand loyal. That's right. Not for gender. Not for sexuality. Not even for the line, girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world except for Lola. No, this one got yanked because Ray Davies dared to sing one simple, fizzy word. Oh, and no, that's not the reason I didn't play it at the top of the episode. The reason I didn't play it at the top of the episode is because of lawyers. This is Don't Play That Song, the show that digs into the music you almost didn't hear. From chart toppers that sparked outrage to deep cuts that disappeared, we uncover the stories behind the tracks that were banned, blacklisted, and pulled from your favorite playlists. I'm John Michael, and on this episode, Lola by the Kinks, a love song, a lyrical landmine, and the moment a soft drink became the hardest thing to swallow. By 1970, the Kinks were a different kind of band. The world around them was changing fast. The summer of love had faded into disillusionment. The Beatles were breaking up. Woodstock had come and gone. Rock music was no longer just about dancing or rebellion. It was a battleground for politics, identity, and experimentation. In Britain, glam rock was on the rise. In America, singer-songwriters were baring their souls, and Black Sabbath was inventing heavy metal. And the Kinks, well, they didn't fit neatly into any of it. They weren't psychedelic. They weren't political. They weren't interested in spectacle. Instead, Ray Davies leaned into a uniquely British kind of storytelling. Working-class characters, sharp observations, dry wit. While their contemporaries were expanding their sounds, the Kinks were shrinking the frame, writing songs that felt like miniature films. If the world was going big, the Kinks went small, and that made them stand out even more. No, they weren't trying to be the Beatles. They weren't chasing stadium tours or psychedelic concept albums. They were just Ray and Dave Davies, two brothers from North London who'd been doing this for a while and had the scars to prove it. But let's rewind even further. Back to the beginning. The Kinks formed in 1963 and almost immediately tore through the UK charts. You Really Got Me changed everything. Fuzzy, distorted, and defiant. It laid the groundwork for hard rock and punk in just over 2 minutes. That raw sound? It was Dave Davies slicing his amp speaker with a razor blade. I'm serious. That filthy, blown-out, distorted mess that makes your speakers buzz and your parents' eyebrows shoot up, that was Dave, just 17 at the time, taking a razor blade to his amp speaker. No fuzz pedal, no fancy studio trickery. Just a teenage guitarist with a box cutter and a big idea. He wanted grit. He wanted edge, so he made it happen, literally slicing the fabric of the speaker cone to let the electricity tear through. A DIY punk move before there was punk. And it's exactly what gives the songs that bite that makes you feel like you're right there in the room, with the amp screaming like it's about to catch fire. But the fire wasn't just in the amps. It was in the band itself. See, Ray was cerebral, ambitious. Dave, on the other hand, was wild, impulsive, and their creative chemistry was matched only by their mutual disdain. The Davies brothers made the Gallagher brothers look like two kids on a playground. Their early hits, All Day and All Night, Tired of Waiting for You, and Set Me Free, showed a band that was clever, cynical, and constantly swinging. Ray wrote characters. Dave played fire. And behind them was a rhythm section just trying to stay out of the way. By 1965, the Kinks were riding high. They had 3 top 10 hits in America and seemed poised to crack the U.S. market wide open. But behind the scenes, they were imploding. Fights were common, on stage, off stage, in hotel rooms, in airports. According to multiple biographies, things got so bad that during a TV taping, the band got into such a brutal brawl that the producer refused to air the segment. The tension was everywhere. Between Ray and Dave, between Dave and drummer Mick, it was only a matter of time before things boiled over. And that time came in May of 1965, during a show at Cardiff's Capitol Theatre. Dave kicked over Mick's drum kit in a rage, and Mick responded by grabbing a cymbal stand and cracking Dave in the head, knocking him unconscious in front of a stunned audience. Blood poured down Dave's face, and he needed 16 stitches. Headlines screamed, "Kinks drummer attacks guitarist on stage." That violent image followed them across the Atlantic, and things only got worse. In Sacramento, they turned "You Really Got Me" into a bizarre 45-minute jam that left audiences confused. In San Francisco, they simply didn't show up for their scheduled performance. But then came the breaking point. On July 2nd, 1965, at a taping of Dick Clark's Where the Action Is in North Hollywood, a union official reportedly taunted the band with anti-British remarks, repeating, "The British are coming, the British are coming," over and over again. Ray Davies, already on edge, snapped. When the official pushed him, Ray pushed back, and the man filed a formal complaint with the American Federation of Musicians. The timing couldn't have been worse. The Kinks had just parted ways with their manager Larry Page, leaving them with no one to smooth things over. And after reviewing the violence in Cardiff, the missed San Francisco show, and the TV studio incident, the American Federation of Musicians had seen enough. They cited unprofessional conduct and revoked the Kinks' U.S. performance visa. No hearing, no appeal, just a blunt decision. You're done. 4 years, no Kinks shows in the U.S. The fallout was brutal. While the Beatles and Stones conquered America, the Kinks were locked out of the world's biggest music market. They missed at least 8 major tours over those years, an estimated $2.4 million in touring revenue alone, not counting lost album sales, merchandise, and media exposure. You could easily estimate that ban cost them $5 to $10 million. Without tours, their U.S. album sales tanked. Their debut reached number 29 on the U.S. charts, but Kinda Kinks barely scraped into the top 60. Each album sold worse than the last. As Ray Davies later put it, if you couldn't play live in America, you essentially didn't exist there. But in that collapse came a strange, unexpected freedom. With no American tours to plan and no executives breathing down their necks, Ray started writing songs about English life, afternoon tea, steam trains, and village greens. The band had slammed the door on America, but it opened the door to something more interesting, a new sound, a new voice, and a new chapter for the Kinks. So when the American ban was finally lifted in 1969, the Kinks came back with a new perspective and a chip on their shoulder, which is exactly what set the stage for Lola. Now, the first question most people ask when listening to the song is simple. Who is Lola? The answer? Well, that's not so simple. I've never met Ray Davies, so I can't say for sure, but the most enduring story is this. One night, the band's manager went out partying in a club in Paris. He drank, danced, flirted with another patron, only to realize the next morning, I think that might have been a man. And Ray turned that into a song. But to him, it wasn't just a random story plucked from a wild night. It was layered, rooted in something deeper. See, Ray Davies didn't grow up in a typical stiff-lipped British home. He was the youngest boy in a big, rowdy family of 8 kids, with 6 older sisters, and a dad who was about as working class as they come. Ray's father, Fred Davies, was a tough, hard-drinking type, played a mean banjo, worked as a slaughterhouse worker, and an electrician. But he also had a playful side. Fred, that macho Londoner would sometimes throw on a wig, dance around the house, and make everyone laugh. It wasn't weird. It wasn't taboo. It was just part of the family dynamic. It was music hall humor. Dressing up, playing with gender, poking fun at the rules. This was the culture Ray grew up in. It shaped how he saw the world. So when Ray wrote songs, he didn't just sketch out characters. He became them. He didn't just describe the rich man in Sunny Afternoon. He was the rich man, lying in his lazy sun-soaked garden, watching his wealth and status slip away. And in Lola, he wasn't just telling a story about a man and a woman, or a man and a drag queen, depending on how you hear it. He was slipping into those shoes, those emotions, that dance between desire, surprise, and confusion. Ray Davies was always more than a songwriter. He was an observer, a character actor, a mirror for the messiness of life. And that's what made his songs resonate, because they weren't just stories. They were perspectives, lived in and fully inhabited, reflecting the world as Ray saw it, strange, funny, complicated, and full of contradictions. So, while there may not be a definitive answer about Lola, Ray often described Lola as a love song that explored the theme of attraction without labels. He pointed out how the song's character falls for someone they didn't expect, and how the twist wasn't meant to shock or shame, but to tell a story. Davies once said in interviews that the subject matter was intentionally concealed. He liked the way the story unfolded with subtlety, how lines like, "She woke up next to me," could lead listeners to assume it was about a woman, even as clues in the song hinted at something more complex. In hindsight, he thought the ambiguity made the story stronger, more surprising, and more human than if the song had been titled something like, "I Dated a Drag Queen." And let's not forget the times. 1970. The first gay pride rally in the UK wouldn't happen for another 2 years. Yet, here was Ray Davies singing, "Girls will be boys, and boys will be girls," celebrating a character like Lola, an act that was quietly radical, whether he intended it that way or not. He'd later admit in interviews he didn't think the song would be so ahead of its time, but time has proven it so. But here's the thing, and the whole reason I'm even talking about this song. Despite the promiscuous nature and the gender-bending storyline, it wasn't this subject matter that got Lola into trouble. The original studio recording contained something else that just couldn't be excused in 1970. Not on the BBC anyway. It was something in the second line of the song. What seems so innocent on paper was apparently anything but. See, when Ray Davies originally sang the song, he sang, "Where you drink champagne and it tastes just like Coca-Cola." That was it. That one word, Coca-Cola. It violated the BBC's policy against product placement. Now, there's a long-standing myth that Coca-Cola itself demanded the lyric be changed, that they flexed their corporate muscle and called up the BBC, demanding Davies scrub their brand from the track. But that's not what happened. Reality is, most brands would love a free shout-out on a hit song. But Coca-Cola didn't have a problem. The problem was with the station. See, the BBC has strict guidelines against what they call undue prominence of commercial products. The policy comes from a long-standing belief that the British public broadcaster should remain free from commercial influence, especially since it's funded by the public through license fees. If you're unfamiliar, most of the BBC's funding comes directly from a TV license fee, a mandatory payment for UK households that watched or recorded live TV or used BBC iPlayer. As of 2025, it's about £159 per household per year. This public funding model means the BBC doesn't rely on advertising revenue like commercial networks. In fact, they couldn't run ads on their UK services at all. No sponsorships, no commercials, no exceptions. They do earn additional revenue through commercial branches like BBC Studios and BBC Global News, which sold content internationally. But inside the UK, the BBC was strictly ad-free. And that shaped everything: programming, journalism, even song lyrics. You couldn't mention a product by name on air unless it was editorially justified. And in most cases, It wasn't. The fear was that even a passing reference could sound like an endorsement, that mentioning a brand, even accidentally, might look like advertising. So, the rules were aggressive. Songs were scrutinized. And if a product slipped through, the BBC's compliance team could spike the entire segment. You just couldn't name drop brands, not even casually. Just imagine if American radio had a similar clause. There'd be no Versace on the Floor by Bruno Mars, no 80s Mercedes by Maren Morris, and definitely no Little Red Corvette by Prince. Brand names are practically a subgenre in American pop music, but for the BBC, even one accidental product mention could mean getting pulled from air. So, if you wanted to be played, you had to scrub your song clean. No Coke, no Cadillacs. So, when Ray Davies sang about champagne that tasted just like Coca-Cola, that was it. That was the line that got it banned. Not the cross-dressing, not the confusion over pronouns, not the suggestion of a sexual encounter. It was the soda. The Kinks didn't do it on purpose. Ray wasn't trying to land a deal. It just fit. It worked. And it wasn't even a chorus. It was one line in the first verse. But the BBC wasn't budging. If the Kinks wanted Lola on the radio, the word Coca-Cola had to go. And the timing wasn't good. But something had to be done. So, Ray Davies did something wild, even by rock star standards. He walked off stage in America, where the Kinks were currently on tour, said goodbye to the band, and hopped a red-eye flight across the Atlantic. No entourage, no press junket, just one man, one mission, and one forbidden beverage name. Ray Davies had no choice. He had to fix the song fast. So, in between gigs, he booked flights, Minneapolis to London, London to Chicago, a 6,000-mile round trip, all to change one word. He landed in London, exhausted from the trip, and went straight into the studio. The plan was simple. Swap Coca-Cola for Cherry Cola. Get it done in a single take and get back on tour. But it wasn't that easy. The take wasn't right. The magic was gone. The frustration was high. Ray was jet-lagged, worn out from the grind of the tour, and now stuck rewriting a song that was supposed to be a cheeky little wink, not a bureaucratic nightmare. But Ray couldn't kick around until he got it right. The band was on the rise, breaking into the U.S. market, and they couldn't afford to miss a single show, especially not now, not when Lola had a shot at becoming their biggest hit in years. So he flew back to the States, barely making it in time for the next gig, played the show like nothing had happened. Then he did it all over again. A second transatlantic flight, another shot at the lyric. But this time, it worked. The new take had the right energy. The BBC gave the all clear. The single could be played on the radio. 2 international flights in under a week. Thousands of miles, dozens of hours in the air, all for a single word. It wasn't just absurd. It was rock and roll diplomacy. A one-man mission to get a song back on the airwaves without compromising the rest of the track, without sacrificing the wink and swagger of a song that had already ruffled more feathers than most bands managed in an entire album. Ray later called it the most expensive word I ever sang. And he wasn't wrong. But for the band, it was an investment that would pay off. Once the lyric was cleared and the BBC aired it, Lola took off. In the UK, it peaked at number 2 on the singles chart, held off the top spot only by Frida Payne's Band of Gold. In the US, it cracked the Billboard Hot 100 and climbed all the way to number 9, becoming their highest charting single in America since Tired of Waiting for You in 1965. Lola even ranked number 386 on Rolling Stone's 2021 edition of the 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. But it wasn't just chart success. It was cultural impact. Radio stations played it endlessly. It became a fixture at parties where teenagers debated the lyrics. Was Lola a man? A woman? Both? That ambiguity, wrapped in a melody that was easy to sing along to, gave Lola a kind of underground cool. For the Kinks, it was a comeback. Their star had dimmed a bit in the late 60s, overshadowed by the Beatles, the Stones, and the new wave of heavy blues rock. But Lola put them right back in the conversation, proving they could still write hits that pushed buttons, sparked debate, and packed dance floors. The single sold over 1 million copies worldwide. It was certified gold in the U.S., and even today, Lola remains one of the Kinks' most recognizable songs. Covered, sampled, referenced, and played on classic rock radio for generations. And here's the irony. The part that almost got Lola banned wasn't the conversation around gender. It wasn't the blurred lines between boy and girl, man and woman. No, it was a brand name. Coca-Cola. Because back then, the BBC didn't just fear scandal. They feared advertising, free publicity, product placement on the airwaves. It wasn't about protecting kids from provocative ideas. It was about protecting listeners from influence, commercial influence. A brand name in a pop song? That was a slippery slope. But here's the thing. Lola wasn't just a catchy song. It was a cultural moment. A wink at the messy, the in-between, the thrill of it all. And no matter how hard the censors tried, they couldn't bottle that up. Because the songs that last, they don't just push buttons, they sell you something bigger. A feeling, an idea, a little refreshment. Thanks for listening to Don't Play That Song. I'm John Mike. If you liked this episode, follow the show, leave a review, and tell a friend. New episodes drop weekly, so hit that follow button and don't miss a beat. And if you want even more, the full transcript of this episode, plus our official playlist of every band song we cover, is available at don'tplaythatsong.com. Until next time, keep it weird, keep it honest, and whatever you do, definitely play that song.